Little mama. But she saw the way the affront misted her mother's eyes. Who was this Asher? Stranger than any of her other children. He was the most curious child who ever lived, Chaya understood, and he became, early, a little mill for grinding words into questions, a memorizer, a challenger, a declarer. It was not her mother's imagination that he seemed to have been born talking. He was never still and never silent. Get away, she would shout at him. Go away, and swat at him as if he were a horsefly. Silent herself, Chaya was glad to give him her ear. She loved them both. So, in a single gesture, Asher had been weaned, and in spite of Chaya's placating murmur, his mother never forgave him. He seemed to have slipped between this year's pages of Who Shall Live and Who Shall Die as a special case, larger than mere life, exempt from all that burdened the rest of them into ordinariness. Asher was not relatively astonishing. He was an absolute. Still, condemned to crawl on a cold Russian floor in the lee of the drafts that came in under their door. His genius was not, except to his sister, cause for celebration. And now they lived in a place called Krista in the state of Wisconsin. A joke, such a name for a pack of disheveled Jews, some of whom swayed and prayed, others of whom blasphemed. The pathetic piece of land they lived on, 17 of them, before the addition of any new life, or the subtraction of old, had been assigned by the powers of the Hebrew Emigrant Assistance Society. With the best of intentions and a dangerous optimism, the association's clerks moved pins randomly on their map as the hordes poured by the thousands out of the Pale, ahead of, or behind, the pogroms, the empty stomachs, the laws and the threats and the curses. Undoubtedly, they looked at their maps with satisfaction. They were not making exiles. They were making Americans. Chaya Liba was 14, newly arrived at the age of self-consciousness when they left Zhytomyr. She would forever remember their arrival with feelings of exhilaration turned to shame. How Asher came leaping down the narrow stairs of the SS Stettin into the crypt called steerage, slipping on the damp floor, clinging to the walls, shouting, "We're here! We're coming in! Everybody on deck! Schnell! Schnell!" Her brother was now 8, small, lithe, with slanted gray eyes that looked for action wherever he could find it, movement, sparking energy, and danger if there was any to be found. One of those boys fueled by risk. He had a map of ringworm on his scalp that had eaten his spiky hair away in a spiral. His eyes, when he yelled at his family to hurry, were as round as the portholes no one in steerage had so much as glimpsed. He blinked them rapidly, signals of his earnestness, and was gone. And so they hurried. They washed themselves off as best they could without much water, mothers showing the way to children and straightened their stringy hair that they had sweated in for weeks, adjusted their clothes. Chaya's thick dress smelled vaguely of vomit and, worse, not even hers. And as if it were Shabbos, and they were rising into its light and sweetness, trusting, they rushed up the many narrow sets of stairs, single file, to crowd against the rail. The air was so thick with fog it beaded up on the steel sides of the ship, making the rivets shine. Their mother had one fist over her